The United States. I want you to just weigh in on that as well. What you're going to be watching for, yes, on the ground in Tallahassee and Georgia and Arizona, but also what you're going to be watching for out of Washington as well.
Well, I think what's become apparent for us is that what the president says, Republicans in Florida are now also using as part of their talking points, like Rick Scott, right? If the president wants to say that something is false, then Rick Scott is jumping on board without actually any proving or offering up any type of evidence that there is fraud in this situation. And so it's really just, amazing to me, too, that the idea that every vote should be counted as controversial in any way. That's the way that our democracy should be working. But clearly, some Republicans are,
feel otherwise.
Feel otherwise.
Yeah, and, a lot of talk about the integrity of the voting process in Broward County, which is a predominantly Democratic party. And I think, rather than fraud, one might argue there's a lack of, top-level competence in the way votes gather, staffing. There's been a history of issues, but that's not fraud. It may not be the voting system you would engineer, or we might be able to do a better job, but it is not fraudulent to make sure every vote's counted.
Ali, I've got two questions for you. The first is, are we giving short shrift here to the ag commissioner race in Florida, which I gather is also too close to call? My second question has to do with Andrew Gillum, the fact that he gave that concession speech on Election Day. Have we heard from his campaign anything about regrets, any information as to why that happened as it did on Tuesday night?
So I'll take those in order. Yes,
right.
The ag commissioner race is very close here, and that's one where actually the Democrat has pulled ahead by several hundred votes. But I know we're talking about thousands in the Senate race and the governor's race. We're talking about hundreds in that race, and so that's going to be a really close race to watch. Your second question regarding Andrew Gillum and the concession speech on Tuesday night, as we've been saying throughout the past few days, those concession speeches aren't binding. But in talking to Andrew Gillum's campaign, it's not at this point expected that he is going to unconcede. The thing that they've really been saying throughout the course of the past few days has been urging every vote to be counted. Andrew Gillum made a Facebook video about that. He's sent some tweets on that, and in conversations with staffers who are with him, that's really what they're pushing right now, is that every vote be counted. They know that they hit that 0.5% automatic recount that would trigger a machine recount. They're very much aware of that, and we're actually going to hear from Andrew Gillum and his lawyer at around 3 o'clock today here in Tallahassee, so we'll be sure to bring you all the latest on that as we get it.
Ali, thank you very much. As I'm sure you know, if you spend 50% of the year or more in Florida, you don't have to pay taxes. You may be headed that direction. So we're going to continue to check in with you
we'll
in the weeks to come, of course. Ali Vitale for us in Tallahassee. And I just want to note, we provide some pastries here. Lisa, you've made good on a promise. You said last time you were on the show, it would be a BYOP scenario. You'd bring your own pastries. What do we have here?
Well, here today we have the delicious sugar-topped molasses spice cookies.
See the glisten of the, yes.
There it is.
Yes.
And next to it, a seasonal pumpkin muffin.
Those are pepitas on top.
They are indeed.
Yeah.
So semi-healthy, long-held dream, finally realized
right here. We will be breaking into those here in the next block, I promise. Coming up, questions about the legitimacy of President Trump's pick to be the acting attorney general, what it means for cases in courtrooms across the country, plus a blockbuster report that reveals the president played a central role in those hush money payoffs to Stormy Daniels and Karen McDougal. The details of that coming up. And moments ago, President Trump and the First Lady leaving the presidential palace in Paris. President Trump was meeting with French President Emmanuel Macron and told the press corps they had a great luncheon. We'll have a live report from Paris just a little later in the show.
If you live with diabetes, why fingerstick when you can scan? With the Freestyle Libre 14-day